It's going.
Okay, good evening everyone. Thank you for coming and welcome to this presentation. As a prologue, this is what it's all about. As now we are in the information age, so many information, but what I'm looking for is the eternal truth which underlies everything. So we are talking about the all knowledge. So the question, can we have that? Let's see. So I presented this ultimate unification theory the first time in 1992, long time ago, 22 years ago, at the 5th International Conference on Thinking, where one of the key speaker was Edward Bono. But through the years, especially in the last few weeks, couple of months, couple of weeks, couple of days, there's a lot of things coming into my mind. So that's going to be totally changed, totally different. And I give Greg also my websites, Scientific Spirituality. I don't know if anyone have chance to look into it. Probably not. But that's all. That's written in 1996. I have to revamp the whole thing because just lately a lot of things coming. So if we're talking about ultimate unification theory, the first question is actually why unification? The unification is actually the scientific method since the Newtonian era that we try to search the underlying principle, the law of nature, governing a lot of happenings with a small number of rules as possible. So for example, in those days we have the Newtonian law of movement, just a simple F equal m by a, or force equal mass by acceleration. And this simple formula applies for every movement, from apple falling off the trees to satellites orbiting our Earth. So that's what I'm looking for, the simplicity that covers a lot of things, but that's the underlying principle for everything. Now, in the 19th century, 20th century, we find a lot of other things beyond the Newtonian border, like the electromagnetic fields found by Faraday, Maxwell, special relativity theory and general relativity theory, Einstein, and quantum mechanics, Max Planck, and so at the end of 19th century, we know that the Newtonian physics is only limited, but still valid, but only limited in the microscopic object. So electromagnetic field, totally different rules. Special relativity theory, different rules. Now people talking about the TOE, or theory of everything, the general or grand unification theory, unified field theory, but where are they? They haven't got that together. But first is actually between matter and field. Einstein's comes matter is regarded as a being constituted by a region of space in which the field is very intense. There is no place in this new kind of physics, both for field and matter, for the field is the only reality. So actually matter is only field, a condensed field, condensed energy. So with this E equal mc squared, Einstein unified the field and the matter. But now the other, the quantum and relativity theory is still cannot be unified. So there is a lot of weird theory in the quantum physics, but the heavy stuff is what they call the quantum entanglement. the contrast is actually, in quantum theory, if two complementary particles traveling at the speed of light in opposite direction, they are still communicate to each other. If particle A deflected to the right, particle B is going to the left to complement its pair. This happens even if A and B are light years away across the universe. The question is actually, those physicists said, what is the local realism here? If I have to be in A and somebody measure or deflected the particle in B, suddenly changes. So the realism is not correct somehow. But then, according to relativity theory, those particles, how can those particles communicate to each other? Because not even information can travel faster than the speed of light. This is the contradiction between quantum and relativity theory since 1935. So Einstein, with his colleagues Podolsky and Rosen, created thought experiments, because in 1935 you cannot do the experiments. That is just an idea. If a source sending two particles in opposite direction, one measure in there, one measure in there. Only in 1964, John Stuart Bell come up with an idea to do the experiment, optical experiments with light and polarizer, director, and detectors. So if he sent light from here both direction, because up till now we cannot send photon lights. And then if he polarized like vertical, the other should be horizontal. So it counted in here. And that's the plus, minus, plus, minus, and minus, plus is counted. And it proves that quantum mechanics is correct. And all the physicists still puzzled and cannot accept how can these two particles still communicate, or if I'm here, that's called the local non-locality principle. That's quantum entanglement. We're so far away. And since Bell, there are 10 experiments being conducted. The last one was last year. And all these 10 experiments prove that quantum mechanics is correct. That all these particles, even if far away, still communicate to each other.
How do you get a particle, when you say a particle, when one's going in that direction and another one's going in that direction, how come they're mates? Because they're different particles, aren't they? Why are they?
Now,
how are they paired?
We're talking about, because we cannot send particle, but the experiment was using lights. Lights is light particles. But according to quantum mechanics, you probably hear the wave particle dualism. So actually it's also wave. And what you call the complementary particle is actually the same wave. So they are the same thing, the same wave, but wave is spread out across the universe. And probably you have also heard about the Schrödinger cat. If you measure things, then it turns into particle. Yeah, but if you don't measure, don't know, nothing happens. Okay? And also quantum is full only about probability waves. So that's all fuzzy. So even the physicists until now, until today, cannot agree what happened? The question is actually, was Einstein wrong?
No.
And then comes to the superluminal connection, tachyon theory, and the key is actually, ever since, science has been fragmented and lose the coherence, and that's why science is like, losing a little bit of the authority, because it's not a solid ground anymore.
And did you read about that yogurt experiment? The scientists got this yogurt and they separated it. And they fed this yogurt with milk. And this yogurt responded. It knew it was getting fed. So they put electromagnetic fields, lead shields. But every time they gave milk to this yogurt responded. Now ask the guy called Richard Bandler, he's probably NLP. He talks about synthetic magic and higher magic. And he talks about voodoo is like DNA.
Mm-hmm.
The yogurt's connected,
Yeah.
even though it's separated. That's what you're saying.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of experiments, like what Robert said. There's a lot of experiments saying, the key is actually the twist of the mind. The loophole is not in the experiments or the concept, but in the concept in our mind. So actually the relativity theory shows that time and space are relative to our system of reference. They are so relative that if we use the movement at the speed of light as our system of reference, time and space become insignificant. Consequently, speed as a dimension of space by time, kilometer per hour, become insignificant, become irrelevant. This is the thing. So now I'm talking about particle accelerator. Now coming back here is the speed of light. This particle accelerator is accelerating particle close to the speed of light. Why? Because by accelerating, they slow down the clock and the mass getting bigger. So this makes it more detectable. So at the speed, close to the speed of light, their clock slows down and their mass grows. The only limitation is that they cannot be accelerated to 100% of c, of speed of light, because it needs infinite amount of energy and their mass might grow infinitely big. How big is infinite big? Probably as big as the cosmos. And it needs also the whole energy is available in the cosmos. That's why it's actually at the speed of light there is no such thing as mass. Only massless particle like photon or light. So this gamma factor, that when you move faster, your clock slows down and your mass grows. And your mass grows, your surrounding shrink relatively to you. That creates another what they call the twin paradox. The twin paradox, if one twin travels at 90% of the speed of light, gamma factor is becoming 2.3, and his clock is 2.3 times slower. After 10 years, his twin on Earth has aged 23 years and 13 years older than him. So this is what they call the twin paradox. Besides that, he will pass Alpha Centauri, which is 4.3 light years away in less than 2 years, because his clock slows down 2.3 times. So in less than 2 years, he already passed Alpha Centauri. And he will feel as if he is traveling faster than twice as fast as the speed of light. So actually the speed of light is the maximum speed. Only if you feel or talking about faster than speed of light, it's because your clock slows down. So to his condition, the universe has shrunk half of its size or its mass group. So at 100% C, gamma factor is infinite, his clock stops, and space shrink into nothing. So he can cross the whole universe in no time or instantaneous. However, this is hypothetical, since no mass can travel at the speed of light. So nobody, no particle, nothing, only waves, massless. So at the movement of speed of light, for a light particle that moves at the speed of light, its clock stops and space shrink into nothing. Hence, photon or light particle does not age and is everywhere at the same time. The two complementary particles from quantum physics that appear to us as if they travel at the speed of light in opposite direction are in fact do not move at all, and they are still together, indivisible. So here is actually the connection between relativity theory and quantum physics. So the universe is to us as what it is only because we are as what we are. Time-space continuum as we perceive it exists only in our mind because the interaction between our senses and its surrounding gives our mind those impressions. It is real only as far as our physical senses are concerned. So the first breakthrough, what I'm introducing here, is actually the unification between relativity and quantum. And I did it since 1992, but science, academic science still couldn't get it right. That was a provocative at my paper. If Einstein had only pushed his relativity theory to the farthest end and applied the movement at the speed of light as his frame of reference, he wouldn't wasted his time arguing with Niels Bohr, but realized that the true and eternal reality is the reality of speed at the speed of light, or the reality of life, where time stops, therefore patterns cease to be cyclic, periodic or time dependent, and space shrinks and separateness cease to exist. Time, space, and the whole universe become singularity, the absolute infinite oneness. This is a little bit heavy. This is a little bit heavy.
So you're saying that there's no cyclical pattern at the speed of light?
At the speed of light, no cyclical time. There are frequencies, waves, and
is there structure, therefore?
oh yeah, there is a lot of things at the speed of light.
So if there is structure at the speed of light, and structure.
But the structure is not like the structure at the speed of light is not like the structure below the speed of light.
So it has no movement, but it still has structure.
Does that mean you're talking about the sun is everywhere, the light from the sun is everywhere?
It's everywhere
Infinite.
and nowhere.
Infinite.
Everywhere and nowhere. This is the heavy stuff. That's why scientists up till today cannot grasp it, or just put this is rubbish. I cannot handle this. Like for example, since this heliocentric system and geocentric system. In 260 BC, Aristarchus come up with the idea to put the sun in the middle and the earth rotating around the sun. In those days, people cannot imagine. How can the earth moving around the sun? Every morning I see the sun and everything come from the east. Nobody. And only that thing, simple thing, it lasted nearly 2,000 years. Until people accept in the Newtonian era, 17th century, from 260 BC to 17th century, how many years? 1900 years? Just simple thing. And this is more than that. That's why after 1992, I just do a lot of mailing lists and websites, discussion on the net, and then finally I just gave up. It's not the time. It's not the time. But then, actually, on the 1st of January 2014, it was a new moon. I did my meditation, and I've got kind of an instruction. This year is a magic year. You have to start sharing again. And tonight is also new moon.
Just to confuse things, I mean, we turn that light bulb on, and if it was as far away as the sun, 8 minutes later we see it. So that's because it's travelling at the speed of light to here. Yet that particle or wave is actually moving. Correct?
According to us, it moves.
Yeah, but in fact it's not moving.
For them, it doesn't. They don't move.
It doesn't move.
It's instantaneous.
Why
They're
is it-
everywhere instantaneous.
Why is it separated like the sun shines onto the earth? Why is there an 8-minute gap for it to get here then? If it's
Because
everywhere?
of how we can measure it. That's why we can measure the speed of light.
Yeah, we can measure it, but if the particle's moving at the speed of light, or the wave, which is both a particle and wave, why isn't it instantly there? You understand what I'm saying?
Yes. And that's also the difficult
Part.
The difficult part is the twist of the mind, because we measure it with our measurement, and what our measurement can measure is that speed. It appears, it perceives as the speed. Also, our perception is depending on our pattern as well. So what we perceive is not necessarily 100% it. Like we perceive the space, like there is a distance between sun and earth. That's what we perceive. Can we perceive, for example, that whole cosmos is one single point, the size of Planck constant? No, we cannot.
There's another dimension to this, which is, are we measuring the same thing? Because in the manifestation of matter, we're dealing with particles in a different way, which is creating duality, time, the opportunity to evolve, as opposed to in spirit or pure consciousness, which is a different grade of being.
We talk about
And
it.
if we talk about, if you're comparing one thing and the other, one is everywhere, nowhere, or whatever.
Yeah.
The other is actually subject to time.
Yeah.
So comparing different things.
You have to slow down. You have to slow down the vibration for us to exist.
Well, no, but there are different
Time is the fourth
realities.
dimension.
Sorry, we may be
Time is the fourth dimension. Space is the third.
Yeah, that's what we take it as the fourth dimension.
Fourth dimension.
Why?
Time, 3 dimension, length, width and height, plus time, and is moved in time. So some people take, or physicists take time as the fourth dimension. Like a Cartesian dimension x, y, and z, and the t. The whole x, y, z moved to t time.
Even with our perception as a human being, this physical body, does that mean that particles are most probably spinning instead of at a different rate to the speed of light for us to exist?
I don't know.
Can you just repeat that again? I'd like to hear that again. Could you repeat that one more time?
I get excited and it just comes out, I'll try. I'm virtually saying that for us to exist, we can't be travelling at the speed of light. The physical body has got to drop down in speed somehow to have some physical
Yes, it's
matter.
matter.
So that's matter. So, but we perceive it as matter, and that's the problem. We have trouble with our brain to understand our physical reality.
It's our
Well, that was the point I was trying to make, is that the body actually is matter and it exists in a different reality to light, which is travelling at like light, like pure light. So the matter is a different level of creation for a different purpose.
well, I
So
think
it isn't travelling at the speed of light.
Yeah, a different. Somehow it's got to be a different vibration.
We come to that. We come to that. We come to that. That's the biggest question. That's the biggest question.
I know the answer.
Yeah, I know you want
So, university, yes? Maths,
yeah, years
nearly?
ago.
Oh,
Years
good
ago,
girl, you'll
yeah.
be right.
Okay.
Years ago.
No,
You should be teaching us.
So this is like state of the art of science. So I haven't add anything rather than only this interpretation. So the next is actually what the newer physics, that the universe is not a collection of objects, but is an inseparable web of vibrating energy patterns in which no one component has reality independently from the entirety. Included in the entirety is the observer. So it's actually observer and the observed and the observer is inseparable. That's why also the Schrödinger cat experiments, also measurements, when you measure, collapse the probability wave, all the weird stuff from quantum mechanics. I'm not going to tell, but here, this is only the crucial point that I'm joining together. So now, in this state of the art of science, we also can see the law of one. We also need to change our paradigm. So the old Newtonian atomistic matter-based paradigm is actually no longer adequate. So we have to move into the new paradigm of inseparable web of vibrating energy pattern. So the reality of light, we're talking about the reality of light. Interesting thing is actually at the speed of light, time stops is eternal. While here, time dependent, people die. It's temporary. Why don't we take the reality of life? Basic. That's the question, the next one. So the reality of life is oneness, and you can split, disperse, polarize, individualize, but still inseparable. Now talking about frequency spectrum. For example, the physical light is only this one. But now we are in the new age, a lot of people mentioning about going to higher vibration, higher frequency, dimension, more dimension. We are living in a mobile phone technology. mobile phone, my mobile phone, your mobile phone, everyone mobile phone is working on the same frequency. But why I can hear my conversation, I cannot hear your conversation? How this mobile phone can differentiate the frequencies for it to receive and not for them. I mentioned you don't need to go to different dimension. My reality in my smartphone here is totally different than the reality in your smartphone. The frequency is the same. Just pattern. Human phone number, genetic codes. So you are talking about the AM, FM, television channel, mobile phone, whatever. And now we have the algorithm. And there's a lot of this electromagnetic wave. Light is only, the visible light is only this spectrum. This is the whole range of electromagnetic wave. And that's what we know, electromagnetic wave. Is there other waves? Probability waves. Other waves that we don't know yet. There's a lot. So electromagnetic speed of light, 299,000 kilometers per second. Then also there is a sound wave. If we can see, the visible is only a little bit here. And also for sonic, what we can hear only this range.
Yeah.
Could we find a bit of paper?
Again, I was going to write on the leg and then I found the receipt, but yeah, if I could.
You know what? I can
There might be a pen.
Thank you very much.
upload this into
We can
the,
upload this onto the site.
On the internet.
Oh, okay.
and then you can
Explain that.
download.
we
That's
want
okay.
to.
That'd be awesome too. If
Or-
I could,
or
yeah,
the-
if I could get a piece of paper
Yeah, yeah.
for questions and notes as well. It'd be great to have a recording as well. Thank you. I'm very grateful. This is fantastic.
Right.
Thank you.
Just give them what's left over.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
cafe.
okay,
That's
sure,
the
sure,
best
sure.
way to get the
Thanks.
audience.
Yeah, no worries. Cheers.
See, like a mobile phone. In the old days, while the analog system, we can have crosstalk sometimes, that we can hear our neighbor talking or other phone talking. Now with digital, we just don't have that anymore. But then, just comparable, for example, like what we can see here. If we change a little bit of our senses and our consciousness, by hypnosis, for example, you can hypnotize somebody not to see this mobile phone and he can't see it. Or you take drugs, you're visiting your neighborhood. You don't know. They exist, but we perceive it differently. Frequency and wavelengths. That's visible light is only a little bit. There's ultraviolet, X-ray, gamma rays, and all the wavelengths. What about the wavelengths? It's about 15 billion years. One cycle per second is 1 hertz. The wavelength is 300,000 kilometers. So, but if a wavelength of 15 billion light years, one wavelength is the whole cosmos, or probably the Hindus call the Manvantara.
So
One cycle, the Yuga.
how is the particle relative to the wave now in a sense? I mean, we talk about particle.
No, we
Well, we're
don't talk
talking
about
about-
particle anymore.
Well, okay, then we're only going to talk about
Wave.
wave. So therefore, the wave patterns can be different, but they're all still travelling at the speed of light.
Yes. They're not traveling at the speed, because at the speed of light, we are not talking about traveling anymore.
No.
No.
Because the speed, like kilometer per hour, at the speed of light, time and space cease to exist.
So what's happening to the waves? How are they?
So that's why now just go a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So actually, the second thing what I propose is to turn the system of reference around. So actually, there is no point in space that can be considered as 100% stationary, as can be used as a point of reference. Like when I walk 5 kilometers an hour on a train that travels 80 kilometers, what is my speed? 85 or 75, depending which direction I walk at the train to the earth. But what is my speed to the sun? What is my speed to the galaxy? So there is no arbitrary point in space that can be considered 100% stationary. That's why don't we take the speed of light as our reference point? Because speed of light speed is constant, c. However you measure it, it's constant. It's the highest speed you can achieve. And besides of that, at the speed of light, the reality is eternal. It's not time dependent. So that's what I propose. So it is a similar as like putting the sun in the middle instead of the earth, but now change the reference point. I don't know how long it will take until people can grasp this. I'm fully aware that it's heavy. The future of science. If science doesn't want to consider this, I call it meta-science, beyond science. Because academic science is a pseudo, but how you pronounce it? Pseudo-science? So we always take for granted, never really ask ourselves whether our four-dimensional time-space continuum, our reality, is truly real. Similarly, we didn't even ask ourselves for millennia whether the sky really rotates around our globe. So even Einstein, the most intelligent people we know, caught up in our reality and could not agree with Niels Bohr about quantum uncertainty principle and the indivisibility of quantum reality. So taking the reality of light as our system of reference, we would not speak of speed anymore. I answer your question now. But degree of confinement instead. Light can be considered as free energy, while mass or matter is confined energy, or known as a condensed energy. At the reality of light, why, something missing, something gone.
Oh, God. It was a quantum leap.
Yeah. I don't know. So now talking about the degree of confinement, densities. You see, at the speed of light, we're talking about the wave-particle dualism. So light can be wave, can be photon, but no mass. And then the second got denser is the subatomic particle, atomic particle, the chemical elements, and then mineral kingdom. So physics has started, Newtonian physics coming from here, and then here you got the chemistry, and here you got the atomic, subatomic physics, and here you get the high energy physics. But then the physicist says all the rules apply here should apply this one. Not necessarily. So we have that here, the reality of light. Can also say the implicate order of the quantum reality. There's the explicate order, Bohm theory. So you see also the density, light, sound, gas, liquid, solid. So if we take that off, and here you can also, the chemical elements, has got these electron shells, how they gather proton, the proton gather the electron around it. From electron shell KLMN, from hydrogen to ferrocobalt nickel, the process is thermonuclear due to gravity. But from here on, the process is different. The process called the neutron capture. So you can see also here is the kind of involution process going down, condense, 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 condense. And from here on is expanding, 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 expanding. You got the mineral kingdom, vegetation, animals, mammals, human. And
Why did you put mammal in there?
animals like reptilian, two different, because there is also, we talk about that at the end.
You know, I'm used to seeing animal, human, spiritual kingdom. Not mammal as a distinguishing. Is that part of the bridge between?
Because of this.
In the
Because of
concept
this.
of consciousness, I don't understand that point.
Because of this. We got crystal, we got organic as a physical body,
Yeah.
and then you got energetic as an etheric body, and you got the emotional, astral, and you got the mental here. So this probably you use to be called human in here and spiritual in here, but I'm putting human here with the mental and causal body in here, because human, according to me, is basically a light being.
It's a light being.
Yeah, from this area, the reality of light. You see,
So in the vast embodied, she was taught that is a spiritual kingdom rather than the human kingdom, isn't she? I'm just trying to get the model.
that's my model.
Yeah, okay.
At the end, we will discuss it again, and I will explain why I put these mammals in between. So, now that was science part. Now about spirituality part and mysticism. The question is actually what spirituality we're talking about. What are we taking? So I started actually with the secret doctrine, this big 2 volume. Volume 1 is actually about cosmogenesis, and volume 2 is about anthropogenesis. Volume 1 is about the creation of the cosmos. Volume 2 about human, sentient beings. I started reading it, and how can I digest this? But I found out that this secret doctrine has got structure. It's based on this stanza of Jian, this book. The stanza of John is also based on 7 stanzas about cosmogenesis and 12 stanzas about anthropogenesis. That is the skeleton of the secret doctrine. The secret doctrine itself is just commentary. But then the stanza of John, originally in Sanskrit, believed to be from the Atlantean era. And people do a lot of interpretation of stanza of
Where
John.
did you find that it was Atlantean?
In here,
It's my understanding it's it preceded Atlantean.
sorry,
It was a source language which preceded Atlantean.
preceded.
Preceded.
What do you mean?
Sorry, I just wondered where you. Yeah.
No, actually,
From the same source. Yeah. Anyway, I'll
Yeah,
come back.
actually,
Come back.
it's-
Yeah.
yeah, because in this you got the stanzas in here.
Oh, the sensor, yeah, the
Yeah.
language,
The language.
or it's ideograph, whatever you
Yeah,
call it.
what you call it, symbology, like using
Well, I
symbology.
think that Tibetan call it a video.
Yeah, and these stanzas also interpreted to many different, like the Purunas in India, also from stanzas. The Tibetan book of Cutie, mentioned in here. Also the ancient Hebrew documents, Sefer Yetzirah, that's supposed to be even before Abraham, the basic from Kabbalah. And also the Thoth Hermes Egyptian, the sacred volume. So we are talking about the source of all this belief system or mysticism or spirituality. And now, the stanza of John itself is based on the essence of that is
Talk to you later.
is the ancient palm leaves. Believed to be most ancient manuscript on the planet, even older than mankind, supposed to be given from our elders, and contain highly magnetized symbols, and the interpretation is left to the ability, to our ability to resonate.
You haven't seen that, that's all he's saying. You haven't seen that, please.
The Tibetan talks about those and the symbols and what's held within them and
Yeah,
the
that's
difficulty of taking what's there
Yeah.
and putting it into any other form.
Yeah.
I've read the Tibetan said that it's even 18 million years old.
Hmm?
18 million years old, the palm leaves.
Hmm.
But what I'm talking about here, the palm leaves is highly magnetized, but not the palm leaves itself. The symbols is also highly magnetized. So what happened to me in 1988, when I start reading this, I come to the stanza of John and I come to the poem. This is at the poem here.
Hmm.
And I was thinking, contemplating about that. I was in Bali, and one day, one afternoon, I went to Seminyak Beach watching the sunset, and everything, everything clear to me, just like what you call epiphany. Now, everything is clear to me, but I don't have the ability to explain because the words is not filled like the Tao said, the Tao that can be named is not the real Tao. But now I'm just talking about this ancient manuscript first. I call it the formula. Only 4 symbols. That is in the proem of Secret Doctrine. Now, it is up to us, up to our ability to reason it. In the old days, people resonate, try to understand and create books and explanation. For example, like the Tibetan book of QT, comprised of 7 sacred or secret volumes. It's only for the masters. And then there are 14 commentaries and glossaries only for the initiates. And 35 volumes for the layman. So that's how they interpret only these 4 symbols. So we can interpret according to us. Now, what I'm experiencing in 1988, that I have the mind of relativity theory and quantum physics in my mind, and I can resonate to that totally different way. For example, in Angkor Wat, there is one wall, it's very famous, even filmed by Graham Hancock, called The Churning of the Milky Ocean. Because at that time, in those days, people cannot imagine how the Milky Way looks like. Just like a churning. But somebody with clairvoyance can see that and put it on a book, and somebody built a temple with a wall describing that. That's how the interpretation goes. But now we got all the picture, all the internet, all the quantum physics, all the mobile phone. We got totally different mind, different knowledge, and our ability to interpret, to resonate to these 4 symbols is totally different. Now, I will leave it up to you. Everybody will interpret according to them, to their ability to interpret. I'm only going to prompt you a little bit with few words. That probably my words is not complete. So on the first page is an immaculate disk with a dull background. So my interpretation, not interpretation, the words I can find to prompt you is the circle symbolizes the source, the absolute oneness, infinite, boundless, without beginning nor end, or the void, the zero, the nothing that is everything. There's a few pages here in Secret Doctrine about this circle. So many interpretations, but I leave it up to you. But from now on, I just simple prompt you with this. And then the second page, the following page, the same disk with the center point. The appearance of the center point symbolizes the first polarization or differentiation, the point of awareness within, so that we can also polarize ourselves. We can have a point within ourselves, be aware of our finger, be aware of our nose, be aware of our body. So that's the point of awareness. But this is the point of awareness of the source. So in the third stage, the point is transformed into a diameter. So polarizing the circle into the upper half and the lower half. So in the Chinese, the Li and Qi. Li is principle, Qi is the physical energy. Li is heaven, yang, yin, or spirit is matter. So you can also, the word of arupa is no form. Very. No form, there's no time, no form, nothing. And the word of form, with arupa, within time, space, continuum. And that's the blueprint, the principle, the archetypes, the causal body, for example, There's no form. And the manifestation. Also the implicate order, the quantum realm, and the explicit order,